Well, welcome back to Rough Restos. I'm Jordan, and we're back working on another treasure which we haven't worked on the channel for a while. Mainly because it's always been the most reliable car in the fleet, but we've currently got this issue. Won't start. Now, I've had this issue for a rather long time. Back in its previous lifetime, when it was the other Golf before I crashed it, the battery eventually failed, or something caused the battery to fail. So I replaced the battery, crashed it, and then built this one, so and so and so. Fine. Then a little while ago, I noticed when I was driving through puddles, the alternator was cutting out, and I was getting battery issues, and I'd have to every few weeks jump start again if I didn't use it in the shed. Now it's just like this. It doesn't do anything at all. The battery is knackered. So what I've been doing for the last few months is because I've been too lazy to fix it, is using the Topdon JS200, which I'm still thoroughly impressed with. So if we plug this one in a minute, plug it on, that'll turn it on. We've got some battery power. Let's just, so this thing is completely flat. Battery is probably reading probably no more than 8 volts. So let's put that one on there. What I tend to do as well is I press the boost button just to be sure, but mostly not needed. Press the boost button, and then like the battery was perfect straight away. Excellent. So thoroughly impressed with that. So that's all good. Let's disconnect it. Get a little blip. Okay. But it's still running. Let's try to turn the headlights on. Oh, kills the car. So, I know the battery's not holding a charge. I know the alternator is also failing to charge the battery and failing under load. So what's wrong? Well, we know the battery's knackered. We know the alternator's knackered. But is there a reason that the battery is knackered? Is it just coincidence, or have we got a parasitic drain? So that's now what we're going to find out. So I'm going to jump on a minute. I'm going to replace the battery, and I'll replace the alternator. I'm sure I've got a spare alternator sitting on this BM engine here. I might even have one. I don't know if I've got one sitting on the other 25 turbo engine. No, I don't think so. What have we got here? Any ancillaries? No, we got a power steering pump or aircon pump, whatever. Oh, aircon pump, but no alternator. Oh well. So I'm going to whip the one off the BM engine here, which is probably like 120 amp plus, which will be nice. Because the alternator all changed, obviously we've been through and shown you the JS200 jump starter there, which is an excellent bit of kit. There's one more bit of kit I've been sent as well, and that was the Kingbolen BM550. Now this is a digital battery tester, sort of the modern equivalent to an old drop tester. Pretty smart bit of kit, and yeah, I'm going to show you how it works. And let's test the old battery versus, nope, there's already a new battery and the old battery, and let's see what happens here in a moment. So, we've got an old battery here. This one here is a 12 volt, 85 amp hour, 800 cold cranking amps. So if we were to pop this little tester on here a minute, little screen shows up. I might have to turn the light off, you see. That gives me a choice there, a choice of 6 volt, 12 volt, 24 volt. So we're going to go OK on the 12 volt. And cold cranking amps, this one here is meant to be 800. So we'll whack this up to 800 cold cranking amps. And what it's going to do is it's going to check the capacity it's still in the battery compared to what it should have. Press OK, and now it's going to do a testing. And it's going to return a little health report on the battery for us. There we go. So this battery now currently has 4 cold cranking amps left in it. 9.8 volts. So, yep. A healthy battery should be sort of 12.4 volts-ish and above. Anything below that is flat. Mega below that is not good. So 9.8 volts. We got 632 mega ohms resistance, so that's very high. State of charge, 0%. State of health, 0%. So this tester is not happy with this battery. It says it's knackered. Now, obviously, what we could do is we could try restore it. We could try give it full charge and see what it says then. I know this battery doesn't take a charge, so there's no point in me trying it. But we could give it full charge and then see what it says. And it will give us an accurate report on how the battery is. So let's pop over to a new battery a moment. Now, this new battery, 12 volts, meant to be around about 900 cold crank amps, I believe. Let's go and see. Let's see what the new battery's coming like. No, I've got a mad puppy on the loose. So we've got 711 cold crank amps in it currently. 12.99 volts, so we're charged. 3.65 mega ohms of resistance, so much lower. 98% charged, 63% health. So this battery is what come in the Mercedes CLK 500 I got at that time. So it's still 63% health. So it's not brand new, it's not perfect, but it's got life left in it. So that's perfect. So yeah, I would say I am quite impressed with this little tester. It's really handy to have. It's a great way of just checking the battery out and knowing how good or how bad it is. We know this battery's knackered. So the keen-eyed ones of you will be able to spot they're different sizes. So I can't actually use this battery permanently because it won't fit in a little crate I built. And I don't plan on rebuilding one of them. I'll just get another battery, I think. Save that as a spare for the Capri or the Range Rover or something. So it's a pain, but terminals are backwards as well. But I can put it in the car a minute to check the alternators working and to try and see if we've got a drain going on. So let's pop it in there a second. So I'll pop the battery in there. There's a temporary. Probably sits better there than it did where else it was. Perfect. So let's check the battery voltage a minute just to confirm. 13 volts, so nicely charged. So it should start the car and we'll check if the alternator is working. Perfect. So fired up on the bottom. 14.4 volts, that's exactly what we're looking like for it to be charging. That's a good sign. So we've got a car charging again, a functional battery. So now we must find out if there's a reason as to why the battery's going flat beforehand. Now it could just be old knackered battery. You know, these things happen, and when they drop below at 12.4 volts, they start to sulfate and they get worse. And you know, you can't discharge a battery too many times. They're not designed to be discharged, especially not a standard lead acid battery. Leisure batteries and that can do, and deep cycle batteries can to more extent, but not a lead acid standard battery. It won't take it for that long, and it'll progressively get worse as it sulfates. The capacity will reduce, and it will happen quicker and quicker. So it could just be an knackered battery. It could be there's a discharge. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the positive. He says, like that. We're going to put our multimeter on current. Set up at 10 amps. So put it on current, 10 amps current. We are gonna, now bearing in mind when you do this you don't want anything heavy drawing on the car, anything above 10 amps and you'll blow the fuse in the meter and it won't work. So make sure you've got all your lights off, radios off, all that kind of heat, blower motors off, because that's not going to help you find a draw anyway. So we're going to clamp this one to the battery like an animal, using this high quality Parkside clamp, of course. So something along the lines of that. And then I probably should have brought out another clamp. 2 seconds. So I'm going to clamp this one here to our positive terminal, and that's going to allow current to flow through the meter and into the car. Now what we're expecting is obviously initial draw, because we've just powered back up the radio, ECU, all that kind of stuff, and we're hoping for it to settle down. This obviously 20 hour turbo is a basic car. I've got a load of stuff put in there, but it's, you know. I've got a dog gone in the car. I have. Okay, got a dog in the car, whatever. But it's a simple car, so there won't be much draw as soon as it's settled down. just the radio ECU. There's no other control modules. There's central locking, but that on this won't do much. If you've got a typical car, you're probably looking at older cars, 20 to 50 milliamps draw. Modern high-tech cars, 50 to 185 to 85. Any more than that, and we've got a parasitic drain, and that's causing issues. So let's just pop this one on here. I put the positive into the milliamp on the meter and set it to be milliamp setting. It's going to be a bit more accurate with amps, because obviously we're dealing with milliamps here. So we've done that. Now what we can do is we can hook this one up to here, and this is going to give us our instant draw. So right there we're drawing 40 milliamps straight off the bat. That's not ideal. 40 milliamps is quite a lot. That's probably, I know it's sort of within what we'd expect of a slightly older car, probably something, you know, around 2000s to 2010 maybe ish, depends on the spec. But I think for this car that's too much. So let's see in a minute if we just quickly charge up the capacitor. I've already slightly charged it. Do that a minute just to make sure it's charged up, because if I move it over that being charged up, there'll be a huge draw and it'll blow the fuse in the meter. So let's just do that a second. And I should have really got a nut for that, shouldn't I, to hold it on? What an idiot. Oh well. So now we're drawing 90 milliamps. Now obviously that should settle down in a second as the capacitor charges. So whilst it's settling down, I'm going to grab a nut. Okay, so now that display's turned off on the capacitor, it's stopped doing any work. So we're now settling down. So what we're going to settle down to, I wonder. Okay, so we're going to settle down on 50 odd, which is still too high, I think. So now what do we do? It's rather simple. We start disconnecting things until we find out where that power's going. So for example, I've got a little fuse box here, which I never got around to marking up after I wired it all in. I'm sure I got the paperwork somewhere for it. But I'm going to start pulling these fuses one by one. I know they couple do a stereo, heated seats, all that kind of stuff. 51 milliamps. So what I'm going to do is, as I pull these fuses, I'm going to watch the multimeter and see if it suddenly changes. Aha. So this first fuse here is responsible for around about 20 milliamps of a drain. That's interesting. I bet that's a stereo. Okay, once we pull any more of these fuses, let's just keep an eye on it. Nope. Nope. Yes, by a few milliamps. So with that disconnected a moment. Out of interest, I'm going to take the capacitor out of the equation in a minute, because we've still got 26 milliamps being taken there. Let's get rid of this one. Okay, so the capacitor was taking 10 milliamps, so we've still got 14 milliamps disappearing currently. So 14 disappearing. I've removed two fuses. If I put this one back in, let's see what we end up with in a minute. Again, wait for it to settle down because everything's going to draw initially. Okay, so we got 4 or 5 milliamps going to that. Now, from memory, I'm pretty sure, bearing in mind that's on a positive, so we've got a 15, a 30, and that one. I would say that's a central lock-in. I'm pretty sure it's central lock-in from memory. So that's drawing 5 milliamps. That one there, I'm sure is a stereo. So again, 19 milliamps. Let's plug it in. Straight away, added 20 milliamps to a draw. Okay, so now we know that's about 10 milliamps. Central lock-in about 5. Stereo is about 20. What else could be doing it? Now I know it's none of this because that's all from the ignition. So without the ignition being on, that doesn't get used. That's covered that. So without them connected, we're still drawing 14 milliamps, which isn't huge, but it all adds up. So I'm going to go disconnect the ECU in that, and we'll see what happens then. I'm hoping you guys can tell me if it changes, because I can't see. So that's narrowed that down a lot. Yeah, the ECU draws 0.8 milliamps. From what I can work out then, the only other place the power could be going to is there's a little suppressor I've got on a permanent feed to the cluster I built, or the little gauges, which could be drawn a little bit, and obviously you've got the dashboard clock. There's not much else. So at least we know. Central locking back on. Should settle back down to 20 hopefully, yep. And then a stereo. So yeah, the stereo draws quite a lot, but it is a fairly modern Pioneer stereo. It's a pain. And the capacitor does draw a bit. So I'm going to put this back together properly in a moment. There we have it, put back in. I'm not putting the capacitor back in because I only use the car at the minute every like once a month, so that risks draining it down more. Yeah, that'll probably stay until the MOT. Sorry, I know we've covered a lot of things in the video, but all very vaguely. But basically the principle of it is to connect up your multimeter in series with your feed for your car. Leave the car in a state like it's parked, so whether it's ideally, I guess in most cases, it's going to be locked. For me, it's slightly different with these cars, but leave it locked or ignition off, sitting as it was, and just let it settle down. See what the figure drops down to, and if it's sort of higher than 50 milliamps on a simplish car or higher than 85 on a more modern fancy car, then basically start pulling fuses to work out as to what's drawing the power. It's kind of as simple as that, really. And then when you know, investigate it further. You probably either got a faulty part or look into it, maybe Google it. Probably, I would start by Googling because there's going to be some common issues potentially with certain cars. So yeah, basically it's a really simple process. I've not narrowed down to any single one here, but I do know what my draw is now, and I know that if I've got a weak battery, when I leave this thing sitting for a month, it can cause issues. So yeah, if at all this video might have been somewhat helpful or enjoyable, not sure, then why not subscribe to the channel, drop a video a like, give me a comment, tell me how stupid I've been, and with any luck, I'll see you guys again next time. I've been Jordan, cheers.